Imagine you're white, alright? Black has just played knight takes d2. What will you respond? I would just take back and then see what can be done later. But then Abdusattorov had different plans. He put the board on fire with bishop takes h7, a Greek gift, refusing to take back the piece but sacrificing one more. And the game just exploded after this. Let us have a look at this wonderful game which Abdusattorov won against Esipenko from the start. Abdusattorov played d4, knight f6 by Esipenko, c4, and e6. Knight c3, bishop b4, Nimzo Indian defense. Pawn e3, castles, and bishop d2. b6, bishop d3. d5, black gains some center with d5, takes and takes. The position is still almost symmetrical. The bishop is on b4, the pawn structure is better here for white, but black has a queenside majority. Knight f3, rook e8, rook c1, and bishop f8. Castles, bishop b7, knight e5. Comfortable position for white, but black strikes at the center with c5. f4, and now knight c6 and knight e2. Rerouting the knight to a better place, to f5 or even h5. Knight e4 and knight g3. He doesn't mind knight takes knight, pawn takes, because then queen gets a nice square here, the bishop would be active, and white would have good counterplay. But here came the big moment. Knight takes bishop was played by Esipenko. He would have expected just queen takes back and the game continues, probably something like f6 or knight takes knight or rook c8. Any of these moves would have happened. But to Esipenko's surprise, Abdusattorov lashed with bishop takes h7. He played that move in 37 seconds. King takes, and now queen h5, still not taking the piece. King goes back, queen f7, king h8. This is a safe option for white as well, because if the calculation doesn't work out, there is still time for white to make a draw here. Just repeat moves and make a draw. So bishop h7 was not a difficult decision to make for Abdusattorov. But here, he believes he goes for the win. He believes the position is winning. Knight g6 check, king h7, and now knight h5, a very nice move. Threatening knight f8 and queen g7. How do you stop it? This is a very clear threat. You can't move the bishop because they will be mate. You can't move the queen to any decent square. It's all covered. You can't play queen f6, queen g5. Everything is covered. So what do you do? There's only one move that stops the mate. It's a funny looking move. You need the bishop to be defended by the queen. So black played the only move, rook to e6, to stay in the game, giving up the rook. So this would be the normal variation here. Queen takes rook, and then queen e8 probably, and deal with the play over here. Here, queen takes e6 was the best option for Abdusattorov, but he goes for more pressure with f5. And this allows knight takes rook, and just rook takes back, and queen g5. This was a critical mistake. Black had to stay passive. He should have played queen e8, in which case just knight into f8, queen into f8, and queen to e6 would happen. It would be a passive position, but it was playable. But then he played queen g5, and now just queen takes rook. The knight stays. Queen takes h5 and rook f3. The pressure is still on. Rook h3 is coming. Here, Esipenko played pawn takes d4, and it is possible to play rook h3 here. Rook h3 is definitely a good option. So let's see what happens if Abdusattorov went for rook h3. So after rook h3, black will have to give up their queen. But then it's basically a rook, bishop, and bishop for the queen. And this was okay for black. In fact, you can play something like queen f7. So here black will play pawn takes pawn, and you can play something like queen f7, hitting both the bishops. But then just bishop c5 should be enough, or even e2. For example, e2, how do you stop the pawn? You'll have to play king f2. Then bishop c5 and king e2, and the bishop saves itself. Knight d8 or rook b8 or even bishop a6. And the pieces are all playing. So this can become horribly wrong as well, even though the black king is weak. So instead of rook to h3, Abdusattorov played a much better move. Abdusattorov played queen f7. It's a move that hurts. It's a move that will hurt your opponent. It's a very quiet looking move, but with dangerous ideas. First of all, you're attacking the bishop. Second, you're threatening knight takes bishop, winning the queen. And you can't stop everything. Knight take bishop is a big threat. So here, Esipenko played bishop d6. I mean, what else can he do? If he moves the queen, then rook h3 comes with tempo, because then both bishops would still be attacked and you would basically gain a tempo there. So he played bishop d6, allowing knight f8, and after rook takes queen. So now what's the material? It's three pieces for a queen. In these kind of situations with three pieces against a queen, if the king is weak, the queen is much better. Right now there is some coordination between the pieces, but that will all fall. King g8 and now f6. Threat is f7. Big threat. So it's like the only moves knight e5, stopping f7, but then rook f5. A nice move, threatening rook takes knight. Now g6 was played. Just queen g5, keeping the pin on the pawn, and the knight still attacked. So f7 is still coming. And if the knight moves, queen g6 comes. The position is gone. He plays pawn takes pawn, and now rook takes knight. King f7. Now rook takes e3. So Esipenko is just playing on, but it's over. Pawn b4. Nice move, asking the bishop to take. Bishop takes, queen takes, rook moves, queen c3, defending the pawn and threatening queen c7. Here black played bishop c8 and now a4. Bishop f5, pawn h3, solving any back rank problems. Rook d8, queen d4. Stopping all counterplay basically and just making black suffer. Now even g4, g5, g4, h4, g5 makes sense. So he goes g4, rook c8, g5, the pawn is now defended. Rook check, king moves. Rook check, king moves. And now there's no more checks. The king is safe. h4, h5 is coming. The position is just gone. And here Esipenko threw in the towel. But this was the most interesting game of round two in WR Masters. And that was all because of this beautiful sacrifice out of nowhere. A move that you would normally not expect. Who you would expect would be queen takes. But he plays bishop h7. And then he just trusts his pieces and his calculation and goes for the win with a very nice attack.